On a new fate day surprises Roxy trying to get out of the mansion with some Roxy's ordinary garments. Seeing that it does not you have a choice, you end up telling the truth, and he goes to the city to make a secret inspection but asks you to not to tell anyone. Because if Harrow is will end up scolding her, then fate grants your request. To withdraw is stopped by her because just occurred to him to assign a secret mission, and it will be your escort during that mission. Once they arrive at the city, Roxy warns him not to call her by name because they can be pillar, and proposes that the sword Grit tells Fate what he surely should have, and it doesn't make much of a difference between their names, causing Fate to street. But Roxy thought she was speaking to she can't listen to her since she can't listen to Grit, then thought it was a nuisance for Fate and felt bad. He quickly clarifies that his misunderstanding by making that she is relieved, and Roxy mentions that is excited about this mission when she sees it. Blushing, shouting, mentions how beautiful she is. Youth and Fate cannot be endured and is try to get even with him. Quickly Roxy tells him not to mishandle his sword, and that now that he thinks about it, he has never seen Fate's sword. This does not please him as someone with such a high level of skill. Useless, I would not need to carry a sword, then it will seem strange to you as well. Remember what Grit said, and that is that when gluttony tastes a soul, there is no backwards. The more you devour, the more the stronger you become, and the more you devour, the more, and it is that if it does not, it will either starve or lose control and will attack anyone in its vicinity. Then Fate understands that it cannot let her or anyone else discover her skill. Gula, due to being distracted, he drops his sword and rocks and catches it. Then she takes the opportunity to give him a look. There he tells Fate that he makes him lack of maintenance and who will present you with to the family blacksmith. Hard Fate se. Relieved to see that it did not happen. Nothing but Grit tells him to shut up now, who is enjoying the moment because Roxy smells wonderful. This clearly Fate tries to do something to him, but Roxy interrupts him when she wants him to follow her. Shortly thereafter, they hit the market and Roxy is attracted to some grapes from a merchant who tells them that he is good. Be careful because they are freshly harvested grapes, harvested from the vineyards of the Hard Rocks, and Fate tastes some and veil delicious that are what Roxy is so proud of. Says it's normal since they are from his home, but the merchant overheard that and does to be confused. Roxy has just been given that because of what he said. Discover that she is Lady Roxy. Grit tells Fate that a relative of his works for the heart, and quickly it answers the guy that very same, arranging that misunderstanding Roxy a log of Fate for that witty response. Although Grit tells him who owes you one, all of a sudden give the announcement that the knights are coming to Sacred by making people turn away, and is fearful of not waiting for the someone like them in the market. At that, Sacred Knight's stomach rumbles and Grit comes to make fun of that, so that Fate tells him to shut up, but this heard the gentleman and asked who said that. Everyone points to the look Fate, and Fate, to see it approaching, prostrates himself to apologize. But before a gentleman does something to Roxy, tells him enough is enough. Although the gentleman may look familiar to you, his face, and asks him if he hasn't seen her somewhere by making all the I also recognize that it is Lady Roxy. Grit advises Fate to impersonate by his partner, who sticks to him like a limpet, and they will believe that it is another one. This repeats it Fate in a low voice, and Roxy hears it, so seeing it as a good idea begins to act as a couple with him. What Roxy does is to pretend that Fate is the hungry one whose stomach growled, and that as a good partner will make you a better food next time. After that, apologizes to the Sacred Knight for they and leave from there. One of the most important citizens see that she is clearly not Lady and Roxy, since a Sacred Knight is not would know how to cook, and everyone leaves when they see that it was a misunderstanding. Roxy hides with Fate while holding his arm and saying his thoughts that he had never gone arm of a boy, and that the boy was his heart was about to burst out of his chest. These words were heard. Fate, thank you that it can read your mind so that it can quickly moves out of the way. Well, sorry. She then goes to another post and sees some gems for sale, mentioning that is still a girl and that it is normal. Then he sees some rocks, and the salesman explains that these are minerals and that it is not known if it contains a gem until it opens. Grit tells you of Fate that with evaluation you will be able to see which has the prize, but warns him that merchants hate those who use that skill. Roxy ends up seeing then withdraws as it has no way to use those gems, and then asking Fate if you do not know any Fate warrior, please question if Oliver and Minerva were not warriors, but she tells him that she has something to ask. Warriors and active non-retirees suddenly hear some guys talking about some goblins. The most widely rumored rumor is that we're killed by a wandering monster. While Fate hears that this is what the people, these guys also say that El Orphanage in the suburbs received donations in the shape of goblin ears, and that the sisters are investigating who donated them. Roxy appears before them when asked if they can give you more details about it and that if they know anything of that wandering monster. But they did not say nothing, and that it is better to ask a warrior. Then she asks Fit to take her to where the warrior's telling that this is what it's all about, your inspection, as it investigates the monster that is said to have appeared in the capital, which worries Fate already. It's about him there. It ends leading to the bar of that bartender who and introduces her as Rocky. The bartender first shows surprise to see him again and that also brought his girlfriend, which he denies Fate, and Roxy breaks the glass in her hand due to embarrassment, then tells them of a warrior who became rich from the remains of many goblins that went out hunting and were encountered a mountain of corpses, with Roxy mentions that an intact ear. Roxy mentions that a guerrero would profit from the spoils and that if it's not, maybe it's a monster wanderer who migrated from another region on. Bartender says he will sell to the business if that's true. Then either for to buy or trade to enter the capital must be traversed across the plains of goblins, but if there is a goblin creature mysterious has made it, nobody will want travel because no one wants to die. This obviously makes Fate feel guilty of all that. At the time Mr. Ed arrives, to whom he was hoping for Fate. When he learns of what he speak, Ed tells you that it makes more sense that this monster is a lich and that it would be a major threat then because of that the knights are going to take, and that a friend of his that he is a warrior told him. So he is true that information shouted at him, asks if they are really going to fight against sacred knights because with the newly absorbed Fate attributes would be finished. Fate also thinks that if Rahi is part of the hunt and the VE would then be in real trouble. Of that, some warriors arrive Los travelers, and one of them tries to flirting with Roxy but is repelled by she. With her power she decides to show her true identity, which makes the warriors quickly became and that they must protect to the people, mentioning that his father dreamed of a world in which everyone we can laugh together and that she shares said dream, and to such see it says that it is identical to sermon, while Fate thinks that until a dream is fulfilled he will follow Roxy. Later lead to screams for maintenance and you feel like a new Fit. You thanks for that, but Roxy thanks him back. Thanks to him I was able to find out more about the wandering monster there. Fate asks him how he knew about the hunt, to which she replies that the blacks are leading the cause and are not of deign to inform you just after hear something, and when they turn around they see that they are the Blad who are treating a Blad poorly child. For what Roxy makes F bring that child with him to protect him from leaving, and take the opportunity to ask Raphael Elpor why he has not informed you about the monster hunt. He explains to her that assumed that she would be busy thinking of her late father, but Roxy clarifies that he is well. They leave. The child explains that can't find his mother. They propose to him go to look for her with him, and they also decide to give him food. Fate remember that he was also lost once, which was when his father died and he moved to the capital city on the which was 5 years ago, and wonders about what would become of the sacred knight who then, by becoming the first to be trained in the evening, they manage to get the mother of the child, and Fate is paralyzed at the sight of Roxy's beauty that she shows in that there he proposes to Roxy that should come back soon so as not to get into trouble, to which she would question if they will be together when they get into trouble, doing what Fate quickly answer yes, and that it is will be by his side already in the night. Fate Lu asks Grit if there is a way to killing monsters without Roxy knowing about it. The next day he takes it to the market and makes you use your evaluation in a mask, which is an object that alters perception. This mask will make the people see them with a different look and feel, which Fit sees as a good idea and decides take it to him. Then go to the gem stand that he visited earlier with Roxy, and upon his return to the mansion surprises her with a gift being a mineral. Then it will says that thanks to her he has a job, new hot food and friendships that considered as a family. Mentioning that I hope I was right and I chose the who has a gem. She happily accepts her gift and breaks the mineral, remaining surprised to see that she has a beautiful gemma inside. Grit tells Fate that it is a cheater as I clearly use evaluation to win the Roxy award, is grateful and asks if there is something that you want in return, and that since you likes meat so much that he proposes a whole year of meat, or it can also be a stone to sharpen his sword. Grit SC is happy with these offers, even though Fate replies that he does not need anything to change. Upon hearing that, Grit tells him that not be a fool and accept the stone, for should take care of him being silenced by Fate as usual. And a change of scene shows us a group of sacred knights gathered at a table, and Raffaele tells them that they will proceed to discuss the expedition to Gaul.